Hello, First Baptist Church Vernon. Pastor Brooks here, and just wanted to share with each of you how thankful my family and I are for how well you've loved and welcomed us since we've arrived here. We've been here just over a month now, and we've just been overwhelmed with your church's hospitality and generosity. We honestly feel like we've been here so much longer than we already have, and I mean that in a good way. We feel settled in, and we're excited to get going in ministry to serve Vernon and beyond. There is a current issue obviously going on in our world today that I wish we didn't have to address, but unfortunately we do, and that's the COVID-19, and we've had more and more cases in Wilbarger County over the last month in particular, and so our church, not out of fear, but out of faith and out of wisdom, want to address those things and want to do all we can, especially to help the people that are immunocompromised in our church or people that are more vulnerable and at risk for contracting this disease. We want to do all we can to make all people feel comfortable and healthy. All of us need, if at all possible, we need to come to worship each week. There's something spiritually that we get when the body of believers are gathered together that we can get in no other way. And so if at all possible, we want everybody to come. Obviously, if you have really high risk or if you're not comfortable with your health, we ask you to stay home. But there are certain people, even like myself, who want to be here every Sunday, but we do have pre-existing conditions that make it more likely if we did get COVID for it to be hard on us. And so myself, I don't necessarily look like I'm at risk. You can't tell, but I do have an autoimmune disease. There are several in our church like that, and there are several in our church with family members who are more at risk. And so we want to do all we can to be as accommodating to as many people as possible. We want to follow the example of Jesus, who put the interests of others above himself. And so as a church, we're trying to do that. Some of these guidelines we're putting in place may not be strict enough for some people, and they may seem too strict to others. And we're asking that everyone get on board and we can be unified with this plan that our church has put in place. Our church has a kind of a COVID response team that has been in place even since this past March, and we regathered that group last week and got people from the safety team, people from various ministry areas in the church, people that are deacons, staff members. We got together, we talked, and I kind of picked their brain a little bit about some of the things the church has had in place even before I got here. And then we put a plan in place. The safety team has discussed this. The deacons this past Sunday discussed it and ultimately approved this plan. And so many people have thought and prayed over this plan, and we're offering it to you today. And so the basics of this plan are that wherever it is possible for us to be 6 feet of social distance, we're going to have that, and where that is not possible, masks are going to be required. When you come into the building for Sunday school or when you come into the sanctuary for church, we're going to ask that you keep your mask on. And then once you come into the sanctuary for morning worship or once you come into your Sunday school class for Sunday school, where it's possible for you to be 6 feet of socially distanced, if that's possible, you can remove your mask. And so that's kind of our rule of thumb. If you can be 6 feet, that's great. You don't have to wear the mask, but where that's not possible, wear the mask. And then when you're in common areas like the fellowship hall or the foyer where people commonly congregate, or when you're passing to and from, say, Sunday school to worship or dismissing from the worship service, we're going to ask you to keep your mask on. Children have a little bit stricter policies, and also the youth group does. There's specific policies in place for really every ministry environment that takes place on a weekly basis. And so you'll see on our website, in this text message you've received, we'll have a link to this video, but also a link to the website where it has specifics for each of our ministry environments. What is our game plan? And then we'll also have a sheet that talks about, okay, if this certain scenario takes place, if you were within 6 feet of somebody that tested positive or has symptoms for COVID-19, if you're within 6 feet of them for 15 minutes or more, what is the response? There's several different scenarios that are on there, and so you can help discern whether or not you need to quarantine, whether or not you should come to the service. So we're going to link to several of these documents. They're going to guide us as a church moving forward. If you have any questions on this, feel free to call the office, and the office number is on those sheets. We'd love to help you and encourage you in any way we can. And again, above all, in this policy, we're striving to please the Lord. And so I pray that you would go over this policy, that you would comply with it, and we can continue to keep our doors open for worship and to minister to our congregation, to Vernon, and to the world. There's so many great things coming up in the life of our church, and I pray that you'll get involved with each of those. Thank you, and God bless.